For sure, and we're very happy to go. We're going live to Boston, baby, and that is where Warriors head coach Steve Kerr is waiting to talk to us, presented by Xfinity. Stay connected, protected, and entertained. Coach, thank you very much. You can't spend, 3-4 days and however long you're going to be in Boston without getting lobster or some clam chowder. Which are you going to take down first?
Actually, I have a Cambridge Brewery ale coming right now.
Oh.
We speak. You okay if I sip on a cold one as we do the show?
Enjoy yourself. You can even work in a couple of refreshing ahs if you want to. It'll just reassure everyone through what has been a hell of an NBA final so far, Steve. What's the thing you know about Boston now that you didn't know before game one? You felt them for 2 games. What do you think?
Nothing new. I mean, they're outstanding defensively. Big and athletic at every position, and this is exactly what we expected. They're a great team, and it's already been a hell of a series, just 2 games in.
To what did you attribute the fourth quarter ambush in game 1, and to what do you attribute what was the key, who was the key to what was a dominant second half for you guys in game 2?
Well, I think everything is always connected, and I think our poor defense in game 1, even though we had the lead through 3 quarters, I didn't feel like they felt us much. Defensively, they were getting a lot of open looks. We were giving them some looks that they knocked down early in the game that allowed them to get into a rhythm, and the game felt too easy, especially watching it back on film. The game was pretty easy for them, and it's just a lot easier to catch fire in circumstances like that. And then we flipped that in game 2. Our defense was much more aggressive, made them more uncomfortable, and no coincidence that we were able to control the fourth quarter as a result.
You've coached essentially exceptional defensive teams in your 8 years in Golden State. Boston is an exemplary defensive team now. But on nights when you don't get that defense, is it more frustrating than if you don't get great offense because defense is largely under your own control? And toward that end, have you ever understood why guys can defend well one night and then not at all the next? And I'm not just talking about your team, but in general.
Yeah, you think about the Miami-Boston series. It just seemed like the more desperate team was the one who controlled the game defensively each night. And I think you just have to remember, the NBA, especially at the top of the league, the best teams are separated by such a fine line that our desperate team often is the one that has the edge. And usually when you lose a game, you're more desperate. That's just kind of the way it works. And game 1 was kind of a feel-out game for both teams. I think we made 19 threes, they made 21. It almost felt too easy for both sides at times, and they took control in the fourth. And then game 2, we were desperate, and you better believe if tomorrow they're going to be desperate. And so we got to be ready for their force and their physicality.
I tell you, I think that a lot of people who want to talk about how much more physical the Celtics are confusing size with physicality, because boy, you were in some shirts, especially Steph, especially Gary Payton II in that second half runaway, when it looked like you just threw away any and all zone playbooks and just said we're going man to man and we're going to play. What flavor was he? Dentine.
Yeah, we were really good defensively in game 2, and people forget that we've had a great defensive team here for years. You can't win championships without being really good on defense. And, over the course of, this run, our team has routinely been, top 10 defensively this year, number 2 in the league. So we can do it. We got Draymond Green, the best defender on earth, anchoring things, and we've got some other guys who can get after it, and when we do it as a team, we can be really good. So that's got to be the formula for us.
Steve Kerr with a beer in his hand in Boston, hopefully enjoying himself. Was Sunday as motivated as you've ever seen Draymond to start a game? I mean, he came out and tied up Horford like he had dreamt about it all night long.
It's hard to make that proclamation given how many big games we've all seen Draymond show up for and impose his will and his physicality. He's done it a million times. So he just knows when it's absolutely necessary. And it was necessary the other night. We were pretty desperate. We didn't want to go down 2-0, and he set the tone right away.
Does the way these first two games were played remind you of any other series that you've been involved in? Or is this one unique on its face and will probably stay that way?
I think it's pretty unique given that the game is different now than it was even 4 or 5 years ago. When we played OKC in 16 and lost game one, the only other time we've lost a game one at home over the last 8 years, that team was really big and athletic and physical, great defensively, but they didn't shoot the number of threes that Boston does. I mean, they didn't have 5 guys who could space the floor and spread you out. So this is a pretty unique team. It's a modern team. They are built to play the modern game, and why they're in the finals.
Klay Thompson sounds cool as a cucumber when asked about his struggles. There's no doubt, though, he's really looking for his shot. How can you help him find it?
I just think patience is the key. I mean, this has been his pattern, really, not only since he came back from the injury, but even just overall in his career. He just gets anxious and wants to impose his will on a game, and when that happens, he tends to take some bad shots occasionally. So we got to just get him to settle down and be patient, take good shots, especially early. And when he's done that, this year in the playoffs, we've seen him have monster games, whether it's against Denver or Dallas or Memphis. So we know it's going to come around. He's just got to be a little more patient and show a little better judgment with shot selection.
How easy is that for you to influence, or is it simply his feeling that that's his responsibility? And are you surprised that at this advanced a point in his career that he still sort of has to regather himself that way when he's having a tough streak shooting?
No, I'm not surprised at that. I mean, these guys are all human beings, and as talented and gifted as they are, they're vulnerable like everyone is, and so it's not easy going out there night after night and being expected to perform at a high level. And that's what teammates are for. That's what coaching is for, and we've got a great group, and Klay is beloved in our group, and I don't even think it's as big of a deal as everybody's making it out to be. As we're 2 games into the series, he's had a couple tough shooting nights. Hardly qualifies as a slump. So it's mainly just that this is the finals, and there's a big spotlight on everybody.
When do you detect a slump in a menu? When they don't have onion rings, mozzarella sticks, or French fries?
That's probably a fitting question for Boston. I think those are prominent items on many menus in this town.
How do you feel about corn nuts, personally?
Not a fan. Me neither. I'm all about the clam chowder, though. That is good stuff.
It is good stuff.
Already had a bowl for lunch.
There you go. It's done. So clam chowder beat lobster. Lobster, I feel, is in your future, though, at some point. Steve Kerr joining us from Boston. He's got a beer on the patio. We won't keep you too much longer. But I think it's something else that with multiple Hall of Famers, a former number 1 overall, and Jordan Poole's arrival season, who would have ever thought that maybe one of the most important keys in the NBA Finals for you would be Gary Payton II? How relieved were you to see his on-court success on Sunday night? And did you really expect 25 minutes from him after such a long layoff due to a broken elbow, of all things.
Yeah, I said this after the game, but one of the benefits of injuring your arm instead of an ankle or a knee is that you can condition while you're healing. And so Gary, over the last month, every single day, is in the gym doing defensive slides and sprints, flying all over the court, dribbling with his right hand, shooting with his right hand. So he's done all sorts of basketball activity throughout this process, which really allowed him to step right into that game and play big minutes and not be winded. He's also, one of the great athletes you'll ever see. NBA players included. I mean, he's one of those guys, kind of like Wiggs, who just never, seems to get tired. But we needed him. He's such a good screener. He's such a good diver. He gets out in transition and gets his easy buckets. And then he's a world-class defender. So pretty dramatic difference with him out there.
That said, when you looked at the box score at the end of the night and saw that he'd played 25 minutes, were you a little surprised, even though you probably didn't have a minutes restriction on him, but given what he'd come back from, were you surprised that you sort of just unconsciously used him for that much as you did?
No, we planned on it. We know that this team that we're playing requires the kind of defense that Gary can provide. And as I said, we watched him stay in shape over the last month, and we're not worried about his conditioning at all.
Steve, this morning on the Morning Roast, Bob Myers stopped on by and was asked about how a guy like Steph Curry doesn't find himself standing in the spotlight of almost universal praise. And let's face it, a lot of people are very critical over a career that is hard to poke holes in, but they try. And I thought Bob gave a great answer. I'd like to play it for you and get your reaction, if you would, please. Here's Bob.
This guy he's a made man. Forget about this final. It's already been done. He's already done it. I mean, he's already proven it. I don't know what he has to continue to prove. I mean, it's almost like, oh my gosh, I didn't know Steph averaged those kind of numbers. What are you watching? I mean, what are you looking at? I mean, he's been doing it. This is his 6th finals in 8 years. Have we not watched him? Have we not watched him over the regular season? I don't know if it's envy. I don't know what it is about him that causes people to fail to recognize what he's doing out there or reluctantly praise him.
Is it a size bias, Steve? Do people just favor the bigger, taller, stronger-looking player, and that's that? Do you think that that's where it comes from?
I think so. I think when you look at the history of the league, you think of, guys who dominated finals games, and as you think of Magic and Bird and Kareem and Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, I mean, these guys are all, monsters physically, and Steph is, he looks like a normal guy walking down the street, and so it's so rare to ever see someone of that stature dominating games. So Steph dominates the games differently. He doesn't do it physically by getting to the line all the time. He does it with his skill, and he does it in ways that people don't recognize. And I think that's the key. When he comes off of a screen and people follow him out to the logo at half court, and then he passes the ball and it's swung again for a wide open three, nobody recognizes that it was Steph who made the play. So I think that's part of it. He just doesn't get recognized for his immense skill, and just his lack of physical dominance, I guess, makes people question whether he's really dominating or not.
Oh, he's a pretty good athlete. They should check that out and figure that into their evaluations. You were right in front of Draymond and the Jaylen Brown tie-up, and knowing that Draymond had already picked up a tech and knowing that is so often called a double technical, how much were you holding your own breath during that replay, expecting a possible ejection?
Not at all. In the finals, you have the best refs in the league, and they understand how to handle situations like that. All 3 refs absolutely knew that Draymond got an early technical, and it was, not exactly a blatant situation in which he got that first one. So you got veteran refs who understand the circumstances. They're not going to kick a guy out for that. It's the finals. It's you got some of the most competitive athletes on earth going at it. Nothing that happened warranted an ejection, and so anybody who's complaining about that doesn't really understand the nuance of officiating and how good the guys are that we have doing these games in the finals night in and night out.
Who you got out on the patio with you? Sounds like you're with a good group.
Got my son, my daughter, and my daughter's fiance.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we're up the street from the hotel outside. It's a nice summer's day or evening in Boston, and a lot of activity around us. I've gotten a couple double birds from the faithful here in Boston. I even had the duck boats here in.
Of course.
I had a duck boat drive by me, and the guy who was doing the tour said hello to me on the intercom, on the loudspeaker, and made a comment about what they use the duck boats for.
Ew.
Boston.
Oh,
yeah,
to the parades. No doubt.
Right.
But did anybody who gave you the double bird happen to be one of your waiters? And if so, are you still drinking that beer?
Might have been one of my players. Now that I think about it, no, it was definitely just good-natured Celtics fans.
That's great. See, this is where sports are good and healthy. What I'd love for you to do, since we're, embracing casual looks on NBA sidelines, what about wearing a Yankees jersey tomorrow night?
That would do the trick, for sure.
Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy a little time with your family before things get right back to business tomorrow. Good luck in Game 3. History says it's pivotal. Tied 1-1, 82% of the time, Game 3 is the winner. Will you even bring that up, or do you hate that?
No. Yeah, don't talk about that stuff. We just play.
Thanks for talking to us, Steve. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. We'll see you later. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Steve Kerr got an ale in his hand. He's got his family around him. He's getting middle fingered from duck boats. Welcome to Boston.